As my Bachelor project, I'm creating a game that will hopefully offer the player a richer experience than just fun. And how I'm going about it is I want to use the thing called positive-negative experience, which is basically experience that uses negative emotions but is appreciated by the player. Since I'm a game designer, I want to achieve this effect through mechanics and systems of the game and not through things like story, art, or music. Well, I think that the most difficult decision that a human can meet is to decide on life or death of another person, and if anybody of you had to put down an animal, you will definitely agree with me. So I decided to build my game around this. The setup of my game is quite simple, so basically in an unknown number of days a catastrophe will strike and everybody who remains on the surface will be killed. There is, however, a shelter location, and everybody who is in the shelter at the time of catastrophe lives. On top of that, we have about a dozen of scattered around locations which together form a city, and we have people in those locations. So, as you probably figured, the player's job is to move as many people as possible from those locations to the shelter. Everybody who doesn't make it on time dies. I decided to make it into a survival game because survival games systems tend to offer a good possibility for user stories or for emergent narrative. As you can see, it's all pretty simplistic and everything works with either drag and drop or buttons. As for the mechanics, the game heavily borrows from the survival genre, so I have all those systems like looting, crafting, and resource management, which all happens in the interaction panels down left. You also have to tend to your needs, but this is greatly reduced to just hunger. What I do differently is that, in contrast with the majority of survival games, in my game the goal is not just to keep surviving, but actually to reach a location, so traveling becomes a big part of the game. Traveling costs food and time, which are both key resources in my game. And if you try to reach the shelter on foot, you quickly realize it's impossible. You will just run out of time and die of hunger. So the player can craft means of transport which reduce the time and the food consumption needed to travel. So for example, at the circus location, the player is able to catch some camels. Well, each transport has a limited capacity and we can see that those camels have actually 3 slots. So the player may think, wow, I can take 3 people right now, right? Wrong, because it may be actually smarter to take 2 people and a box of food. Or maybe the player should actually send just 1 person, a fridge, and a box of tools. Who knows? So far, I have been focusing on the basic survival loop, which actually works quite well by now. And the next step will be to make the player care a bit more about people. So right now, there are playable characters and NPCs, and what the NPCs do is that the player can invite them to join the group, but as long as they are not the part of the group, they just stand around and do nothing. Lately, I have started to program AI, which will make the NPCs appear as if they are trying to reach the shelter location as well, independently from the player. And the AI is far from perfect, but playtesting showed that it's actually a good direction. The next step will be to get rid of the feeling of danger that the testers report in face of the AI, because the feeling that I want to create is not the one of competition, but the one of, hey, we're in it together, let us work together to get out of this. Thank you and have a lovely day, guys!